Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Mansing. Topping our newscast, Alexander Henderson School in St. Croix will be temporarily closed for a period of 1 week because of roofing issues. In a press conference on Wednesday, Education Commissioner Sharon Ann McCollum announced the closure to allow for repair work to be done. The school will close on April 1st, Friday, and will reopen on April 11th, Monday. According to education officials, it's a necessary move for the safety of students and staff. Here's more.
I stress that this is a health and safety issue, and we made the decision that for our employees as well as our students that are top priority to the Department of Education, it would be best for us to close the school. We have contractors on site. They have been on site prior to the Easter vacation, but unfortunately because of the rain and substantial issues with the weather that delayed the work that is being done, we have made the decision that for us to continue in a timely manner, we need to close the facility.
Count on two to keep you updated. Meanwhile, the United States Justice Department has reached a settlement agreement with Terminix International and its subsidiary, Terminix VI, over the company's use of an illegal pesticide that poisoned a family vacation on St. John, as we reported yesterday. Under the plea agreement, Terminix will pay millions of dollars in fines and restitution. News News April Knight has more.
Terminix will pay $10 million for illegally using a pesticide that contained a toxic chemical in the territory. The company has agreed to a plea deal which includes $8 million in criminal fines, $1 million in restitution, and $1 million for a community service project in the Virgin Islands. The plea deal comes more than a year after the Esmonds, a family of 4 from Delaware, became seriously ill while on vacation. They stayed at the Siranusa Resort on St. John, and the unit below theirs was fumigated with methyl bromide. The chemical can cause central nervous system and respiratory system damage.
In a statement on Tuesday, U.S. Assistant Attorney General John Cruden said the Terminix knowingly failed to properly administer the pesticides in the territory, causing profoundly debilitating injuries to the family.
It's unclear how the family's been doing since, but back in September, the family's attorney described their ordeal as being in a torture chamber. Their mother, Teresa Devine, had less exposure to the toxic gas. She made the strongest recovery, but the father, Steve Esmond, was still suffering from severe tremors and struggling to speak. The boys remained unable to move as of September, paralyzed by the nerve agent. Governor Kenneth Mapp has since responded to the settlement, saying it sends a clear message that the Virgin Islands will not tolerate a blatant disregard of its laws. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
The $1 million in restitution will go to the EPA for response and cleanup costs, and $1 million in community service would go to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation to provide training to pesticide applicators in the VI. Virgin Islands Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett said accountability in this most unfortunate situation is certainly welcomed. While this settlement may be deemed just, in no way does it alleviate the pain of the families affected and the fears of those who have been potentially exposed. We know that there is still a number of sites, particularly on the island of St. Croix, where residents were potentially exposed to the restricted fumigant, and I would like to see the same consideration paid to mitigating the effects to those individuals or residences. The unfortunate events in this case underscore the importance of the role of our Environmental Protection Agency and the role of our local Virgin Islands Department of Planning and Natural Resources in enforcing environmental laws and protecting the people of the territory against the harmful effects of environmental contamination. In other news, the charred remains of the yacht known as Positive Energy has risen to the surface and is getting prepped for removal. On March 15th, you may remember, the 84-foot yacht caused a frenzy in downtown Charlotte Amalie when it caught fire that afternoon while docked along the marina at Yacht Haven Grand. Firefighters could not extinguish the blaze, so the yacht was towed to a safer location until fire crews eventually helped the fire die down. The yacht will be towed to Puerto Rico at the end of the week. 15 Virgin Islanders were sworn in as members of the Virgin Islands Fire Service Tuesday morning at Government House on St. Croix. Governor Kenneth Mapp thanked the recruits for their dedication and said that he remains committed to fully staffing the agencies responsible for the territory's safety and security. As many as 80 more firefighters are expected to be trained this year. The governor thanked Senator Kurt Viollet for serving as keynote speaker at the graduation and said it was critical that the legislature work with the administration to properly fund the agency, as many of our firefighters are now living under working under poor conditions. 4 firefighters were also promoted during that ceremony. Congratulations to all the graduates. Residents in the area of the St. Thomas Abattoir in Nada were roused by a commotion on Good Friday. They heard the cries of some animals kept at the abattoir, apparently under attack. The Department of Agriculture revealed some weaknesses in the perimeter of the facility, but also drew attention to the importance of pet owners taking responsibility for their animals. News 2's April Knight has more.
Agriculture Commissioner Carlos Robles was in his office on Good Friday morning when he got a call about an attack on animals in the St. Thomas Abattoir.
A call from someone in the community about animals at the abattoir, some goats of the animals being attacked by dogs. So he was calling to inquire as to whether we had animals out there, and I told him yes.
By the time he got there, a crowd had gathered. He expected to see 13 sheep in a holding pen that they had transferred from St. John, but he only saw 2 sheep standing.
They were so maimed that they were in various stages of expiring.
The department had to put all 13 sheep down. According to Robles, residents reported seeing at least 2 dogs committing the act. Preliminary investigations revealed that the dogs had forced themselves into the pen through some loosely secured parts of the perimeter.
It could have been 3, maybe 4, but definitely 2 animals that had gotten into the pen.
The fence surrounding the St. Thomas Abattoir shows sections torn, bent, or worn down. After the Friday attack, Commissioner Robles said they're moving ahead with repairing the gaps. According to the commissioner, a similar attack has happened a couple of times before in the abattoir, and while it's not a regular occurrence and could have been committed by feral dogs, he does have a message for dog owners.
We're assuming they were wild. So we don't want to put that on a homeowner, but we've had enough anecdotal information from livestock owners that they've actually captured animals with collars and name tags. And so we want to encourage homeowners to walk your animals rather than turning them loose at night.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
According to the commissioner, animals that are scheduled to be transferred to the abattoir will be moved to an area closer to their offices for now, for safety reasons. Virgin Islands Department of Agriculture, meanwhile, is accepting applications for the 2016 Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. Grants are awarded to projects intended to enhance the competitiveness of specialty crop industries through research, education, or market development. Qualified projects are those meant to benefit the industry as a whole, as opposed to benefiting one individual farm or company. The department will use a competitive review process to select the most qualified projects. Selected projects will be included in the Virgin Islands State Plan and will be submitted to the USDA for approval and funding. Specialty crops include fruits, vegetables, tree, nuts, nursery crops, herbs, and more. A very important meeting to discuss matters pertaining to activities at the Estate Lorraine Farmers Market. That's scheduled for April 4th from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the University of the Virgin Islands Cooperative Extension Service, room 133. Vendors are asked to attend, as well as the entire community. The Department of Agriculture will institute a number of changes and seeks the input of all vendors and customers to improve conditions at that market. In other news, turn our attention overseas with Wisconsin voters headed to the polls in the state's primary next week. GOP contenders are making a big push in the Badger State. Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and John Kasich spent Tuesday evening courting Wisconsin voters, as well as deriding each other at times. Reed Binion reports.
You won't promise to support the Republican nominee.
And he was essentially saying the same.
A new sign of the bitterness in the Republican presidential race came Tuesday at CNN's Wisconsin Town Hall, as all 3 candidates backed away from their pledge to support the eventual nominee.
If the nominee is somebody that I think is really hurting the country and dividing the country, I can't stand behind them.
Party officials asked candidates to sign the pledge in September, but as the primary field narrowed, the acrimony between the remaining contenders expanded. Trump and Cruz's once amicable rapport devolved into a series of recriminations, tabloid smears, and personal attacks that included their wives.
I'm not in the habit of supporting someone who attacks my wife and attacks my family.
I don't want his support. I don't need his support.
The backtracking came the same day that Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, was charged with simple battery for a confrontation with a reporter. He's vowed to fight the charge.
I looked at the tape, and by the way, if he was that way, I would have fired him in 2 seconds. I wouldn't care. I couldn't have cared less. But I looked at the tape.
Cruz and Kasich both said terminating Lewandowski would be appropriate.
It is not complicated that physically assaulting a reporter is a fireable offense.
I would take some sort of action, either suspension or firing.
The ramped-up rhetoric comes as GOP contenders prepare to face off in Wisconsin's primary on April 5th. I'm Reed Binion reporting.
Keeping our eye on the economy, let's take a look at the stock market watch at the New York Stock Exchange. And according to the numbers, everything up. The Dow 83, NASDAQ 22, S&P 500 up at 8. Coming up on News 2, we have the docket call, plus transfer day events are scheduled for Thursday. A look at the schedule. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Bureau of Corrections Director Rick Mulgrave said the agency continues its steady progress towards federal compliance. Warden Mildred Trotter said improvements have been made to these areas: completion of the observation room, renovations to the mental health group therapy room, 100% documentation of shift rosters from December 2015 to February 2016. The BOC is moving toward completing additional policies as required by the United States Department of Justice monitoring team, according to officials. Director Mulgrave commented on other areas of interest concerning prisoners who were transferred to off-island facilities. He said the inmates were not just shipped off to other facilities. Facilities were vetted before the move was made. He said he previously met with the administration of both facilities well before the inmates were transferred. A team of medical and mental health counselors assessed the inmates' needs as they arrived, and those in need of services are being treated. Mulgrave said video visitation for the inmates will be available within 30 days. Certification programs in woodwork, electrical plumbing, carpentry, as well as a GED program are also available to them while at the off-island facilities. District Court Judge Curtis Gomez sentenced Casimir Azim McLean, 37, of St. Thomas on March 28th to 10 months imprisonment and 3 years of supervised release for possession with intent to distribute approximately 4 kilograms of marijuana. On November 23, 2015, McLean pleaded guilty to possession with intent to distribute marijuana. According to the plea agreement, McLean was arrested on September 26, 2015, when he arrived at the Cyril King Airport and aboard a Delta Airlines flight from Atlanta, Georgia. As part of his plea, McLean admitted that U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers, with the assistance of a canine, found approximately 4 kilograms of marijuana on his carry-on luggage. Danielle Sher Combs, 31, of Atlanta, Georgia, and Sequan Celestine, 21, of St. Thomas, made their initial appearance on Saturday, March 26, before U.S. Magistrate Ruth Miller on Friday, March 25th. Combs and Celestine arrived together at the King Airport on board a Spirit Airlines flight from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. CBP officers approached them after they removed their bags from baggage area. CBP officers searched their bags and found a large plastic bag of a green leafy substance that tested positive for marijuana, 4 bottles of oil that tested positive for THC, hashish, 63 grams of that as well, and several baked goods laced with marijuana. They face a maximum of 5 years in prison and $250,000 fine. On Tuesday, March 29th, Jose Luis Ponce Pagan, 36, of Puerto Rico, pleaded guilty in federal court on St. Thomas before the Honorable Curtis Gomez to conspiracy to possess cocaine with the intent to distribute. And according to the plea agreement filed with the court between August 30th, 2015 and September 3rd, 2015, Ponce Pagan knowingly conspired with other individuals to purchase approximately 100 kilograms of cocaine on St. Thomas for distribution in Puerto Rico. He faces a maximum sentence of life in prison and $10,000 fine. Ponce Pagan remains in custody pending sentencing. Senator Nelson would like to invite you to the first peace planning meeting for the year. It is scheduled for Tuesday, April 5th at 9 a.m. The meeting will be held in the senator's office. Now, the recent Peace and Rally concert was a huge success, as well as the last march. Now is the time, they say, to plan for this year's events and address some crime concerns. Virgin Islands Department of Health is urging territorial healthcare providers to renew their quarterly medical malpractice insurance. All practitioners that are currently on the quarterly payment structure are due to make a payment by March 31st or will be practicing without coverage. Commissioner nominee Dr. Michelle Davis said they are making this announcement as a courtesy to practitioners. They want to enable compliance on every level of healthcare delivery system throughout the territory. Several of our practitioners, ranging from physicians, nurses, pharmacists, including but not limited to dentists, pay for their medical malpractice insurance quarterly. Practitioners can contact the Department of Health by calling 340-718-1311, extension 3000. U.S. Secretary of the Interior Sally Jewell today joined fourth graders from the Julius E. Sproul Elementary School in a visit to the Cinnamon Bay Archaeology Lab in the Virgin Islands National Park on St. John to announce important funding launching the Every Kid in a Park program in the USVI. Now, that program allows fourth graders nationwide to go to and obtain a pass for free entry for them and their families to more than 2,000 federally managed lands and waters nationwide, including the USVI, for an entire year, starting September 1st, 2015. Secretary Jewell, Virgin Islands National Park Superintendent Breon Fitzgerald, and Assistant Secretary for Insular Areas Esther Kiana presented the students with their park passes. The secretary and the fourth graders also participated in educational activities. She also announced a $25,000 grant to cover transportation costs for students to the parks. Well, tomorrow is Transfer Day. Theme is 99 Years of Growth, Paving the Way to Our Centennial, presented by the St. Croix Landmark Society. Ceremonies begin on Wednesday, March 30th in Frederickstead at 5:30 p.m. with a seaside tribute to the ancestors. A mini concert follows at Fort Frederick this evening, 6:30. The forum, Transfer Revisited, moderated by Dr. Olaf Hendricks, will begin. Now, Thursday, March 31st at Fort Christian Verne, the program will begin at 9 a.m. on St. Thomas the same day. This ceremony will be held at the Legislature grounds at 2:30 p.m. Also at 9 a.m. on Thursday, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services will be holding a special naturalization ceremony to celebrate Transfer Day. The event, to take place at the Fort Christiansted National Historic Site, will witness 43 new citizens take the oath of allegiance to the United States. USCIS officer Peter Torres will present each candidate. Presiding the ceremony will be the Honorable Wilma Lewis, Chief Justice, and the Secretary of Interior, Sally Jewell. She will offer the keynote remarks, and the event is open to the public. Back here on St. Thomas on Tuesday, the BCB Middle School took to the streets to celebrate what would have been the 110th birthday of the school's namesake, Bertha Christine Bishalty. Bertha Bishalty was a respected educator and civic leader. Tuesday's celebration included performances by the BCB cheerleaders, Ivana Eudorican High School Marching Band, BCB quadrille dancers, Flamba Combo, and the BCB School Choir, as well as a balloon release. A special ceremony was held where speakers and former co-workers reminisced on the life of Miss Bishalty, who passed away in 2004. Partners for Health has donated $70,000 to the Schneider Regional Medical Center. The donation, they say, will be used to help fund the telemetry program at the Roy Lesher Schneider Hospital, specifically the interface allowing for monitoring of patients. Janice Gottlieb, along with other Partners for Health representatives, presented the $70,000 check on behalf of Partners for Health and very loyal community Partners for Health. It's a nonprofit organization established in 1977. Since its inception, the organization has worked to bring better health care to the people of the Virgin Islands. Kudos to them for that worthy donation. The U.S. Small Business Administration has appointed Wayne Huddleston as its new Senior Area Manager for the Virgin Islands. As Senior Area Manager, Huddleston is responsible for delivering SBA programs and services throughout the islands of St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, with nearly 120,000 residents and entrepreneurs. Huddleston replaces former Senior Area Manager Carl Christensen, who for more than 30 years served the SBA in the Virgin Islands Territory. Prior to this appointment, Huddleston served as Economic Development Specialist and Veterans Business Development Officer for SBA's Dallas-Fort Worth District Office, where he helped the office reach over $1 billion in SBA guaranteed loans and provided services to over 860,000 small businesses annually. Be sure to stick around. Your News to AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.